we just need to make a few small changes, adjustments based on the walkthrough that we've just done. We saw a couple of weird things happening. First of all, I'm going to go to the navigation tab just so I can see the navigation area. Now you know these big areas here, they are actually rendering perfectly fine. If I click on the terrain and just uncheck it for a second, there's actually water underneath there. You can see that it is actually rendering fine. The reason why some of the characters can't get to some of these targets is they're outside of the walkable area. So just make sure that any of the, well, that one's very, very close there, so I'm actually just going to move that in a little bit. But you can see some of them there are outside of the walkable area. Okay, so as you're putting these targets down, you might need to move them individually, and indeed you wouldn't put them that close together anyway. You would want to kind of really space them out, sort of one up there, one over there, one over there. And obviously we can see that if I put the terrain back on again, if I can find the terrain now, just type it in, there it is, terrain. If I switch this back on again and go over to the navigation, we can see that you're able to walk across the water. Now we need to fix that, which we will do soon. But we have a couple of other fixes to do. First of all, this big character, he's kind of like, he's a little bit too dark. I also feel that this light it's illuminating his face, but then his top of his head appears a little bit too dark. So he is enemy number 3. What I'm going to do is find the front light, and I'm just going to raise it up a little bit and bring it a little bit closer, I think. There we go. And also his top is a little bit too dark, I feel. So let me find his top, and under the material that's there, this texture, I'm actually just going to change the colour slightly so that maybe it's more of a kind of a yellowish top. Okay, something like that, just so that it's slightly lighter when we see the character in the game. Now a lot of the characters are appearing quite dark. Now whenever we flash our flashlights on them, nothing changes because they've been excluded from our flashlight, which looks really unusual. So I'm going to go to the first person controller camera, and we've already have our spotlight. I'm actually going to duplicate that, so edit and duplicate. Alright, I'm going to change the colour of this to like a blue tint, maybe something like this, like a nice sort of blue tint. Hexadecimal code 5ECFD7, and I'm going to reduce its intensity down to about 1. And under its culling mask where it says mixed, I'm going to change it to nothing and then choose just enemies. So this particular light will now light the enemies whenever we walk near them, but it won't be this really intense orange light that I didn't quite like the look of. It'll be this nice sort of not as intense blue light, alright, to make them a little bit brighter. Now these baseball bats that the characters are holding look more like pool cues, okay, because they are so thin. So this is enemy number 3. I'm going to find the baseball bat. Now I think it's just the scale of it is not so great, so it's 0.7. Let me try 0.9 on that one and 0.9 on this one as well, so that it becomes a little bit thicker and it no longer looks like a thin sort of stick. You may need to do that for the other baseball bat as well that this character is carrying. It's just a little bit too thin, I think. And finally, for the character who's carrying the gun, his gun is a bit too big. So this is enemy number 6. Let's find enemy number 6. and the gun. Okay, so on the X, 0.333, let's try 0.25, 0.25 on this one as well, and 0.25 on this one as well. Okay, so it's a little bit smaller now, the gun, and obviously it needs putting into position. In fact, 0.25 looks like it might be a little too small now, so 0.28 is what I'm going to go with. Okay, that's better, and obviously I just need to adjust this, so there we go, and I might even just rotate it down slightly. What you're looking for is to ensure that this index finger is at the right position to actually be holding onto the trigger. Okay, and I think that's right. So that gun looks more like the size that we're after, which is good. Now we did notice that this character, when he reached one of his targets, would, when he was leaving one target to go to the next one, he actually slid for a little bit and then started walking again. The reason is the animator controller. So if we just double click on this one, we take a look at the walking with gun, and we click on one of the transitions, we will see that as exit time is checked, we need to uncheck that. Okay, because if we don't, it actually plays the entire animation and then transitions. Same with idle with gun. That's why we were getting that sliding effect. Okay, so those small changes should now have fixed all of our issues